someone was knocking on my door.
All right, well, we're live. We are live on YouTube. Give it 1 sec before we go live everywhere.
What's going on, everyone?
All right. What is going on? Yeah, it's been a minute since we've all been together. We've had a kind of a crazy month of just work and sickness and playoffs.
This has been our most rough patch of the show. Over a year and a half in now, and I feel like it was due. Not that we don't want to be on here every week with everyone, but life happens, and we definitely know what's at stake. We got to get back here grinding, especially during this fall time, great time for sports. And we're back for episode 84, with an asterisk. Ben, I feel like we miscounted at some point. I don't know if 84 is the true number or not, but we're gonna roll with it.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. I'm one behind uploading to Spotify, so last week's isn't uploaded yet. So I don't. Yeah, I think we're at 84. But if it was 85, it wouldn't be surprising to me.
Yeah, we have a couple missing on Spotify. I know YouTube. We started late. Obviously, StreamYard is our main platform now, so we're all over the place. But we're here. We're ready to talk sports, and I mean, let's get after it.
Yeah. So big night last night. I guess we had like 5 different sports going on, but big game 3 happened, and we'll talk a little World Series. I mean, Dodgers are just putting on a clinic right now. Yankees don't even look like they're. I mean, I know the games haven't been crazy far away, but they feel like the score's a lot more out of hand than it's been. It makes me feel good that the Mets took it to Game 6, because right now the Yankees are just trying to get a win and not get swept in the series. I mean, the amount of the amount in that lineup with the Dodgers is just, it's insane. And when you have contributions from guys like Tommy Edman and Teoscar Hernandez, and you still have Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, and Shohei Ohtani. It's just
Kike Hernandez. Kike
Hernandez. Yeah, and you got Judge, who has just forgot how to swing a bat in the playoffs. So
yeah, it's been a crazy series, and the Dodgers do it a lot with their bullpen, which I hate, but it's been effective for them. They've really neutralized the Yankee bats, and I don't see it really going much further. I think the Dodgers just have the momentum, and the Yankees are struck. Unless they come out and win on a walk-off, I don't know how they're going to win any of these games, because it seems like the Dodgers strike early, and then from that point on, they just keep the foot on the gas.
Yeah, and there's been some questionable calling on the Yankees part. Yesterday, what they sent, I'm sure you guys saw, they sent Stanton on that around third, and Stanton is so slow, and I mean, just he wasn't even. It didn't even seem like that close of a play. The Yankees just made some of those mistakes, it seems like, in this series, and the Dodgers are. I don't think Dave Roberts is that great of a manager, but the Dodgers have so much talent on that field, and they're getting, pitching, the bullpen, like you said, Chase, is just, they have so many guys that can pitch 1 or 2 innings and be fantastic. So,
yeah. And another thing too, I think the momentum went away from the Yankees when they put in Nestor. They threw 2 pitches and that was a bomb. I think that just, because they were in that game, they come back, tie it, and they're hanging around. But it feels like since that moment, they've just been not the same team at all. It's almost like it just took their soul away.
Yeah, and it was a weird year in the AL. I'm probably a little biased because I don't like the Yankees, but they never felt like, even though they were the best AL team, they never felt like they were that great of a team. Like they obviously Soto Judge is a great combo, and they have Garrett Cole, but they don't have the depth. They don't have a lot of pieces that you would see in a winning championship team. But it's, they had think about it, almost was like March Madness when a 1 seed goes through to get to the Elite 8, and they get to face the 12, and then they get to face the 8, and then they get to face the 10. That's kind of what it felt like for the Yankees to get to the World Series.
It doesn't even just feel like I'm also, there's plenty of Yankees haters out there, so I don't think we're on an island with that, Ben. I think it's okay to be a little biased that way. It just doesn't even feel like they're they're a team. They're playing like a team trying to win a championship together. I think besides, and I'm not even gonna hate on Judge right this second, because two of the top three Yankees players, if you go top players versus top players, Soto and Stan are playing well, and obviously Freeman and Betts are playing well. But all other aspects, bullpen, pitching, team hitting, small ball, defense, it's just like all going to the Dodgers. And the scores, like Chase said, I think, 4-2, 4-2, maybe the other one, 6-3 or something like that. It's not like they're blowout games, but they don't feel close at all. I mean, the Yankees are making some stirs late. It's never nearly enough. And I mean, it's just wild. It is. And Freddie Freeman with the surgeons, I mean, he's battling some injuries. He was looking hobbly. He's just on fire right now. And so much is getting hidden with the Ohtani, even with Ohtani playing injured. It's just everyone, all eyes on focus. And I do it too. You're like, oh, Ohtani's up. I got to watch it. And then he does his thing. And then up comes Mookie Betts. And you're like, oh, wait, he won a World Series in 2018. He won a World Series a few years ago with the Braves. And they have the talent on the team and the veteran leadership, the winning veteran leadership. And it's just showing on all levels.
Yeah. And it's a weird, like I don't hate the Dodgers even because a lot of those guys, like you talk about a juggernaut team, which the Dodgers have been in the playoffs so frequently. But a lot of those guys on that team, like Freeman's a likable guy. Like as much as he killed the Phillies and the Mets with the Braves, like he's one of those dudes that you can look and say, he's hard to not like. Same with even Mookie Betts. So it's a weird, thing in that sense where there's not like you don't have a Jesse Winker who you guys could be like, oh, screw that guy, or someone who just riles people up. But I'm happy for Freddie Freeman because he's had kind of a rough year with his son, that whole situation too. And yeah, he's been, the Mets series, he looked like he was hobbled. They even sat him a game. I think game 5, he wasn't even playing. And I think I was listening to some of the things during that series, and he was getting his ankle worked on. I think it was every day for 4 hours before the game. He was literally sitting on a table and getting his ankle worked on. It was like this 4-hour ritual just so he could suit up and play. So he's banged up. I'm sure he's gonna be in like a walking boot as soon as the season's over, but he's looking like the World Series MVP right now. Good for him.
Yeah. Well, and the Dodgers also only have 7 World Series. I know it's still a lot, but it's not like you think the rich history, all the Dodgers, Yankees, 2 of the best teams from their respective leagues ever. It's like, well, the Dodgers, especially in our lifetime, they haven't been as relevant until the last 5 to 7 years or so. Before that, they were mediocre for most of our existence, right? And so it's like, I don't know. It's not like you've grown to hate them all these years like we have with the Yankees and their 27 rings.
Yeah. Well, they've been good. They've kind of choked most years in the playoffs at some point.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's hasn't been that competitive, and I'm sure we'll talk plenty of baseball off season this year as we roll into it. Maybe do some guessing games. We'll try to start that before it comes out or something.
I still owe you guys. I'm pretty sure that's the thing I still owe you guys for. If you guys tie.
Well, last year we were going to do one, I think, on MLB Trade Rumors that was like you could actually go down like the top 50 and you can put in a sheet and guess it. But we looked at it like a week too late. So this year we'll have to see when that starts. But yeah, let's shift here. Go to some NFL. Pretty rough week for all 3 of our teams. So I don't know where we want to take this, but it's been a ride. I don't know who wants to commiserate in their misery first.
Yeah, because the Ravens played the Browns this week, and in my book, the only unacceptable things the Ravens can do ever is lose to the Browns, and I feel like that's not okay. There's a way better team, and they've proved that. 5 straight wins going up against 5 straight losses, and Jameis Winston, who's a interception waiting to happen. And against this defense, I figured they could probably squander it out. They're only averaging, I think, 15 points a game. Really shouldn't be a threat at all. They've moved on from Amari Cooper. They're pretty much waving the white flag. And we go in there and lose and make the Browns look like they're supposed to make the playoffs, even though they have 2 wins on the year now. And their only other win was against the Jaguars. So it's not even a really quality win. The thing that bothers me the most with the Ravens is that they've destroyed NFC teams, and that's great. That's awesome. That really doesn't mean a lot during the regular season, but they keep losing to AFC teams, and it's going to hurt them in the playoffs. Already lost to the Chiefs. Kind of figured that was going to happen. No big deal. Then you come back week 2, lose to the Raiders. That's a terrible loss. Really unexcusable. They weren't even playing that well week 2. And then you lose to the Browns. Another horrible team that's not even going to be close to the playoffs. So it's not helping them in the long run, and it's really terrible. 2 horrible losses. I mean, they should have at least 7 wins right now, and they don't. And it's a tough spot to be in. Obviously, teams are going to gun for you, and I felt like they needed to make a move defensively. And it might just be moving on from the defensive coordinator right now. They brought in Dean Pease, who is on my hit list. I never wanted to see him again in Baltimore. For some reason, they circled back and brought him in to be a consultant. Horrible idea. I don't even know where to start with that. He had easily one of the worst tenures as the Ravens defensive coordinator when he was there. He left, went to Tennessee, was equally as garbage there. Pretty much hasn't worked in the NFL since that point because it's shown he sucks. And you brought in him to help with Zach Orr, and their big move, it seemed like, was to play sticks defense, and that also just makes my blood boil. You might as well just give everyone 10 yards while you're doing that. I don't think anyone's ever won a championship playing stick defense. If you did, it was a one-time freak occurrence thing, and you probably had a juggernaut offense. It sucks, and I'm not going to be watching a lot of Ravens football if that's going to be the move, is to play sticks defense. If we're going to make the playoffs, I know we're already not going to win the first game playing sticks defense. So get that out of the playbook. It's never going to work, especially against the top tier quarterbacks like Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes. They will eat you alive doing that. So there's no shot. I don't like it. I like Zach Orr, but it doesn't seem like he's carried on any of the legacy or any of the main points that the Ravens had with Mike Macdonald the last 2 years. It seems like he's totally just forgot about that entirely. And the team really hasn't changed a whole lot. And the problem was this past weekend they sat Marcus Williams for no reason. No reason that was given. I'm sure there was a big problem. He probably yelled at Zach Orr and called him a dumbass. So did Roquan. So did Kyle Hamilton. All 3 of those guys didn't talk to the media. Roquan and Hamilton pieced right after the game. So I feel like right there, if your defensive captains and the guys who are the playmakers are saying stuff about your defensive coordinator, whatever it is, or even saying stuff about your head coach, big problem. Big problem to have in the middle of the season. We haven't even got to the bye week yet, and this defense is floundering. I mean, this is easily the worst Ravens defense I've seen since Dean Pease, and before that, never watched a terrible Ravens defense. They've always been the calling card. It's where they invest all their money, all their draft picks. And right now, it doesn't show that at all. It doesn't seem to me like you have Roquan Smith. It doesn't seem like you have Kyle Hamilton. I get there's a lot of plays that could have bounced your ways, could have been picks, could have been better opportunities. Bateman drops a huge pass that probably keeps the drive moving, maybe get some more points out. But, I mean, this team, weeks on end, lets other teams get back in it in the fourth quarter. They're kind of the reason why Chris Godwin got hurt. I'll just say that flat out. You should have never gave the Buccaneers a chance. And you did. And they threw him out there because they thought he had a chance. And he blew his knee out. So really, Buccaneers fans, we're sorry as Ravens people because that should have never happened. We should have just been rolling, cruising. Lamar with the offense should have never gave the ball back. They did twice late in the fourth quarter. So those points right there, you're going to hurt your own team. You're going to hurt other people's teams. So for the Ravens, I think moving forward might be time to make a change. Obviously, we all know who I want the change to be, but it's not going to be. So I think maybe just moving Zach Orr around. No idea who the replacement is. I don't know the staff that well, but no one who's going to continue to play this way is going to keep going. And especially if you lose your leadership, the guys who make the plays on defense, it seems like trouble to me. And they went and make a move today. I was excited to hear that they made a move, and then it was for Deontay Johnson. Not wild about that. Not wild at any point in the game. I feel like he has stink riddled all over him. I didn't like him when he was a Steeler. Didn't like him as a Panther. Now he's on my team. Luckily, it's a 1-year deal. Who knows where he goes? Probably not back to Baltimore, but in a way, it almost felt like a defensive move to keep him from going somewhere else to a team that's going to hurt you. Could have been that the Texans were in on it, losing Stephon Diggs today. And obviously, with playoff aspirations, we're going to have to go against the Chiefs. They pick up D-Hop and Uche. And the Texans are going to probably be making a move soon. So, in a way, it felt like they just did it because they don't want him to go to another contender, which is a move in itself. I don't really know much else. It didn't cost them a whole lot, which I'm fine with. But at the same time, it's like feels like wide receiver is redundant, and this should have happened 3 years ago if you wanted a wide receiver. And now we're needing some help on defense. So we'll see where it goes. Tough spot to be in, though. And I know you guys can relate with the way your teams have played recently.
Yeah. I mean, I can go next because I'm actually not going to hate as much on the Cowboys as I have been in recent weeks. I saw some good things on Sunday. I mean, 49ers, it's their biggest rival of recent years is I think even more than any of the NFC East teams because of how much the Cowboys have dominated that. So it sucks. I'm not a Brock Purdy fan. The 49ers, I hate it as an Eagles fan. I hate now as a Cowboys fan. But I'd rather lose to them in the regular season than if we somehow run into them in the playoffs, assuming that we make the playoffs at 3-4 now. But I don't want to run into them again because it's hard to beat the same team twice, let alone in the playoffs, and recent history hasn't helped. But some positives I saw. I'm finally glad they called up Dalvin Cook. I thought him and Zeke as the 1-2 punch in the backfield did a great job. Nothing against Rico Dowdle. Thought Zeke had a great year last year in New England. Still think he has some stuff left in the tank. And with him getting more consistent reps, I think he can, start to understand the flow of the game a little better and find his holes. And he had some great 8-10-yard runs on Sunday. CeeDee Lamb looked amazing. Back to, this is why we paid him as a Cowboys fan. Still some bad picks by Dak, right? But overall, they were able to play in one of these tough games in a tough environment and not just let it get away from them, like against Baltimore or against Detroit. And obviously on the defensive side, stopping the run, it's going to be a problem. They're going to just have to figure out ways to win without it. And their big injuries, Parsons, Lawrence, Bland, they'll get them back. But up until then, kind of just try to hold the fort down. But overall, I'm not as mad. I'm pissed because I thought they had a chance to win like I do every week because I'm optimistic. And we'll see. 3-4. The scarier part is, being 3-4 in a division where the Commanders and the Eagles have been having great seasons. So, now you're looking at fighting for a wild card spot. This could bite them. This 49ers game could bite them in a standings type of thing, coming down to the wire for that 6th or 7th wild card spot. But yeah, I don't have too much more to say. I have hope, as I always do. You guys know more than anyone else, I'm a very optimistic fan, especially as a new Cowboys fan. But 3-4 is not the end of the world.
Yeah, before I get into Jets quick, just you brought up Commanders. How about the freaking Hail Mary? That was insane. I just want to mention that because that was pretty ridiculous. I mean, total luck, like really, pretty much luck, but still,
I didn't even, first off, I watched it live. I was mind blown. I couldn't even say anything, and then you start reading into it, and I didn't even first off know there was so much more into a Hail Mary than there is. How Noah Brown drops back behind everyone. I'm like, oh, that's such a smart play. I didn't even realize there's formations. You want the quarterback to hold the ball as long as possible so they can basically get this giant mosh pit so that the ball gets tipped up into the air. And there's just so much more that came of it, all because it worked. And Noah Brown called the easiest Hail Mary I've ever seen in my life. And it was ridiculous for sure. Definitely just certain things like that. I mean, we all play Madden. We call everyone calls a Hail Mary at least once or twice a game when you're playing Madden, not just at the end of the half or the end of the game, because it's fun to bomb it down the field. NFL, obviously, success rate is minimal, so it's always exciting, especially when you see one like that one. Just, 20 hands together, and it just pops out right back to Noah Brown in the end zone for the tutty.
Yeah. Noah Brown's sitting on my fantasy bench, but I'll just talk Jets super quick.
Oh,
I haven't been as invested just because of how deep the Mets got into the playoffs that I didn't invest as much time maybe as I normally would have with the Jets, because the Mets are always going to take precedent and priority for me. But you talked about it, Ryan, how you were wondering if Rodgers is getting too much power, and now it feels like it feels like he is, because they are now losing winnable games. And the Patriots are not that good of a football team. Like that's a game they got to win. They beat them 24-3 earlier this year, and to lose this game is not good. So they're in a pretty bad spot, and you do wonder like how much Rodgers has left in the tank. I mean, he's not the same prime Rodgers that you're going to get. That's clear, but they gotta get something else. They have a really talented offense. Like it feels like they're just wasting some real talent on offense right now with these games. Because you have two legitimate running back ones right now. It feels like, because Braylon Allen's a good player.
He's great.
And then you trade for Devontae Adams. You got Garrett Wilson. You got some good players on that offense.
And by the way, I think Allen Lazard is an X factor for that team too. And obviously, he didn't play last Sunday. I think that hurt them a lot more than what people look into. But you're right. They have the
I agree.
weapons.
Yeah. No, I agree totally with that. And they have a tough game Thursday night. Now they got to turn around against the Texans. They are at home. Texans did just lose Diggs to an ACL, but we'll see. They gotta do something with that game, and then they have a stretch where they have some winnable games with the Colts, Seahawks, Jaguars. So they have a winnable stretch, and they gotta just go like on a 3-1 run or something, just to put themselves back in the mix. Like that's what I would say is next 4 games, go 3-1. If you don't do that, you're really gonna be in a tough spot. Just to even make a run at the wild card. 2-6 is not a place where you want to be.
Yeah, I almost wish I had up the recent playoff years with the 3 wild cards, but now the extra 17 game. Because Ben, if they lose Thursday, they're 2-7. They win out. 10 wins used to be with even with when there used to be 6 teams, but there's a extra wild card, but also the extra game. Like, is 10-7 good enough? Like you said, it's getting sketchy, and it's going to be a tough game Thursday. I don't know if Nico Collins. I don't think he's going to be back, so they're going to be out. Texans out their top 2 wide receivers, obviously, but CJ Stroud is a professional quarterback. He knows how to play the position, and he acts like he's a 6 to 8 year vet out there, and this is going to be, that New York's going to be they're going to be hearing it if they don't have a good first half Thursday night.
Yeah, well, and it's a short week, but they got the bye after that. Like, so you got to go into there with some momentum so we could finish it off. We're like, if you would have told me almost halfway through the season we'd be below like the Raiders, the Browns, like I'd be like, what? Are you joking? So it's been rough, but we'll see how it goes Thursday. Thursday's a big game, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like a must win.
Yeah.
No, yeah. Anything, at 28-27 loss, Aaron Rodgers throws for 500 yards, still not a good win in my eyes. 2-7, I think you're about done. But
yeah. Also, as we're recording this, I'd just like to say Freddie Freeman just homered again in the first inning. So that's now 6 straight World Series. He's homered in.
He said, don't worry about the ankle. I'll just hit it over the wall.
Yep. Oh 2-run homer first inning.
every game. That's one of those he ties. I think that ties George Springer's record.
Yeah,
for
well,
consecutive
and
games.
dating
Just
back
dates
to his
back
last
to-
World Series game.
Yep.
Yep, I think
Yeah.
you're right.
I think he
Well, that's
ties George
crazy.
Springer's record. Ridiculous.
Well, it's over for the Yankees.
Yep, early 2-0 lead at top of the first.
Last, I just want to make one final NFL point before we move on. I know we've taken up a lot of time so far. Just real quick, Tua Tagovailoa comes back, makes his return. By the way, I was gonna tweet about this on After Further Review. Like, I'm not excited about this. I'm not thrilled. If I was a Dolphins fan, like, okay, you can win games. Like, I genuinely am scared for this guy, and I don't want to watch a Dolphins game. I've seen this man go into mannequin mode twice now with who knows what's going on in his head, and I understand he wants to play, but he's just got too much of a lackadaisical flow to him that I don't want to watch, even if he's not going to try, him go down again. And I mean it as fear, like pure fear for him. Like, I love the guy. I love Tua. I think he's done great things for the Dolphins organization. But the main thing is he doesn't protect himself. And I just really, really hope that doesn't happen again. But I will not be watching if it does.
I respect that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I totally agree. I'm with you, Ryan. And we'll move into college football now. And I mean, we just saw news-wise Jake Tuttle from Michigan, based on, like, literally what you said, Ryan. He's retired from college, from playing football, because he's had so many concussions, and he said he wanted to prioritize his health. So you're seeing some guys do it. I don't understand why he won't try the Guardian cap. It feels like, I know it looks funky, but like, if there's any chance, like, you take a risk with everything, right? But like, when I go in a car, I use a seatbelt, and that's like that extra little layer of protection. Yes, I could drive a car and be fine without a seatbelt, but like, why? To me, it feels like if it gives him any better of a chance, like, to help with his head and his future, I don't know why he wouldn't use it. So.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, unless he's committed to just living to another down and not really scrambling anymore. But it could happen on a sack. You just get a defensive end, picks you up, turns you into Vince Young, and slams you on your head. There was really not much he could do about that.
And this isn't 1974. We have the history, the science, and the knowledge now as a community on what football can do to you in a negative aspect, right? America loves football more than any other sport. It's not close. There's no close second anymore. Us three all like baseball just as much as, every other person, but we know football is number one. There's certain situations that just aren't healthy for any sport. And I think this is one. This is just a bad luck for the NFL and for football.
So. Yeah, and it's tough with the concussions. It's not even, like you said, it's scary looking on the field. It's not just like he hit it and we didn't know about it. Like, it's visible things happening. So
yeah.
But yeah, we'll move on here. Big game coming up in college. Ryan, you're going to tailgate it. I think we're all Penn State fans here, actually. The one team that we're all fans of.
Is this the only sport where we all ride the same team?
I'm pretty certain.
Oh no,
I think
D2.
So.
D2 football. We're all Ship fans.
That's true.
So.
That's fair.
We got to go in on a D3 team together. We got to go in on a D3 team together now.
Oh my God. Okay. But yeah, big game, 3 against 4, both looking like they're legitimate contenders, and with the new playoff format looking like they have a chance to do something. But yeah, exciting game. Chase can touch more on some of the ins and outs of it than I can, but I'm excited just to watch it.
Yeah, it's definitely a big game, and it's going to be kicking off at 12, which is a little bit of a bummer. I kind of think that this is a night game special. The people who assigned that decided otherwise, so 12 o'clock kick makes me not a fan of the Penn State side as an early game, but you never know. They could come out and be dominant right away. I feel like they seem to do their best under the lights. But to be honest, if I'm looking at the stats real quick, hasn't really been against Ohio State. And Penn State as a whole, they're 1-22 against AP top 5 opponents since 2000. And that only win came against number 2 Ohio State in 2016. Which I remember. It was electric. It was awesome. I really thought it was going to mean a lot more. Didn't. Haven't been there since a while. And Ohio State's won the 11 and the last 12 against Penn State. So there's a lot riding on this game for everything, not just on the college football playoff, but for James Franklin as a whole. We all know when the schedule comes out, there's 2 games that matter the most and 2 games you better win if you're going to do anything, and that's Ohio State and Michigan. And that's not to mention all the people who got added. Oregon, the number 1 team, so they're going to be a problem. But the good thing about this is if you lose, I don't think it ends Penn State's playoff hopes at all. Whereas in the past, this would be the nail in the coffin, and I'd be sweating it hard knowing that they're going to just get blasted by Ohio State. I think they do have a really good chance, and I think it all depends on whether Aller's healthy and whether or not they just decide to pound the rock with their 2 top 10 running backs, guys who are going to be first-round picks, maybe even top 15 picks, and Nick Singleton and Katron Allen. I think that that's the key for Penn State to have success. And especially if Aller's out, I don't know what the game plan will be, but you can't abandon the run at any cost, and you can't just rely on Tyler Warren to catch all the receptions either. I mean, he's going to be a nice decoy for this game, and obviously I want the production, but he can't be the only receiver doing anything. And, Wisconsin last weekend was a good challenge, especially to get Bo Perbula good reps in a meaningful game, especially down in the stretch of that game. So hopefully he's able, if he has to get the start, he can just roll it over. It's not like he hasn't been in the games at all. He's been in on special plays, gadget plays, in blowout situations. But to have him start against a team that should probably be ranked a little bit higher than Ohio State at this point, just considering the fact of who they've played and how they've played them, we'll see. It's gonna be the big matchup. It's gonna be the one everyone's talking about this weekend, and it kicks off the Saturday slate.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Ben.
No, I was going to say I'm disappointed. I totally forgot it was 12 o'clock. So I'm not going to be able to watch it at all.
Oh,
I have a training until 3 o'clock on Saturday. So.
Tailgating those 2, it just, I don't know, it's going to go so quick with the game starting so early. I'm going to have to get there early. No, ultimately, Chase, I think the biggest factor is how they're coming out of these last weeks for each team. I mean, I watched a better part of the second half of this Wisconsin game. A Wisconsin team that has given up less than 10 points in 3 straight games. And, even with Penn State's backup QB in there, they were able to move the ball down the field, get some late scores. Obviously, defense, special teams. It's going to take an entire effort to beat this Ohio State powerhouse that seems like it's their Achilles heel every single year. But on the flip side, Ohio State, they didn't look too sharp against Nebraska. Actually, we're losing in the 4th quarter, I believe. I didn't catch any of the game. Was following it a bit on my phone. And so, if both teams kind of ride that wave into Beaver Stadium, into Happy Valley, maybe we can sneak one on a 12 o'clock noon high upset alert. I know we're the 3 seed playing the 4, but if the Big Ten and you're a Penn State fan, like this is the game to watch. And it's just wild because I know that it's great that now this doesn't put the nail in the coffin. You can still be a top 12 team and make the playoffs, but the Big Ten's even better now because of teams like Oregon, who are number 1. And I don't think Penn State has them on their schedule this year. They had USC earlier in the year. They obviously beat them, so they didn't have to play Oregon this year. But now it's just like, I don't know. The teams like, Michigan's having a down year, but oh no, now here's Oregon. And I kind of want to touch on that too at some point, because the Big Ten, like, it's always like the SEC that's just dominating the top 4, 5, 6, 7 spots. And the Big Ten right now is insane. And it's super exciting because Penn State's in the mix, but also, like, of course, they're having one of their best years ever. And you have 2 other teams that are in the top 4. So I'm beyond exciting. I know I probably won't get into the game. If there's some last minute scalp opportunities, I might take someone up on that to get in there because I know it's going to be bumping, but the atmosphere is going to be flowing, and I really hope they can ride the wave no matter who's in their starting lineup at QB and everything. I mean, this is James Franklin needs to win. He hasn't beaten them yet, right, Chase?
Just one time in
One
2016.
time.
And that was the Barkley team, so I wouldn't even count that because Barkley did all the heavy lifting in that game. And it did come down to a special teams play, but
yeah.
I mean, it was not a pretty game by any means. It wasn't like they went out there and puffy pants them within 10 minutes. It was a down to the wire affair.
Yeah. So I'm beyond excited, and I just feel I've watched more Penn State this year than I have in the last 4 or 5 years, and I don't know, something feels right. They have a great, well-rounded team, and if it's nice to know they can lose, but they shouldn't have that mindset, right? Because they win this, and it's like all bets are off. They can make a serious run at a championship.
Yeah, and especially be that number one team. But just for the defense, if Jeremiah Smith gets any type of work, it's probably going to be the end of the day. You can't let him do anything against this defense. If I had it my way, he would have like 5 to 6 catches, under 100 yards, and 0 touchdowns. I mean, do you have to eliminate him? Because he's the heart and soul of the Ohio State team. If he starts moving, much like Marvin Harrison Jr. last year, if they get the gear start turning on these guys, it's really hard to shut them off. And for Penn State, it's got to be all about not letting him take you down.
For sure.
Yeah. Well, it'll be exciting. I'm excited, I guess, to find out after the game's over what the score was.
Yeah. Catch me on game day too.
Yeah, you guys gotta make a sign and get in that crowd.
Mosh it my way in there.
Yeah,
there you go.
You just got to fight a bunch of hungover drunk students who probably lined up at 4 p.m. the day before, but it's easy deal.
Yeah,
I heard they line up so early. It's crazy.
Yeah, like the day before. I don't know. I would just start a frenzy. I'd be like, "Oh, Saquon Barkley's over there," and then everyone turns your head and you just run up to the front. That's the move.
That's a good one.
Because everyone's just gonna look. I would.
Yeah, you're right. All right. Well, we'll move on from college football. We have a couple miscellaneous sports here at the end. So I'll briefly just talk. We haven't really talked much at all. WNBA, we talked about it some, but Liberty won the championship. So congratulations to them. It's their first one ever, and they were one of the original 3 teams. So
crazy.
They've been
That's crazy. They haven't won yet.
Yeah, they were 0-5, I think, in the championship game or series. So now it's kind of like a weird lull with the WNBA, but they have, I guess, the draft lottery in November, and then there is the expansion team, which has an expansion draft in December, which I think is going to be kind of neat to follow. I haven't really been into a sport. I know hockey does something like that, but I think each team can only protect 6 to 7 players. So there's going to be I don't know. There's going to be some decent players available, which is
the best neat. Teams get hurt in in the hockey expansions. I think the Vegas Golden Knights, didn't they get Fleury, at that time, the elite goalie on the Pittsburgh Penguins. So there's some of the top teams. It's almost like the here's what you get for building a great team right before an expansion team comes in. You lose somebody.
Yeah, and I don't know where they get I don't know how the draft lottery works as far as the expansion team. I don't know where they get a pick either, if that makes sense. Because there's some really good Paige Buchers is going to be in the draft next year. And there's going to be some really good women's college players. But the only other thing I was going to mention. Sorry, go ahead.
Does the WNBA do it like the NBA with the lottery? Is that what you said?
They do a draft lottery, so they have the bottom 4 teams. You know how right now there's 8 teams that made the playoffs, 8 out of 12, which I know is crazy. But basically the 4 teams that don't make the playoffs go into a lottery for the number 1 pick.
Okay. I would think that they might be built into there, but I guess we'll see.
So, but I don't know how they're going to do it this year with a 13th team, the Golden State team coming in. So
So they're going to run the
Um,
year with a 13-team league.
Yes, and then they have one new team every year through 2028, and they've been pretty like consistent. They already have the next 3, I think. So basically, they'll be up to 16
league.
team. I know but they'll be up to 16, which I think 16 is a good amount. Like
Yes.
that's getting there. That feels good. But then the only other thing I was going to talk about is before the season started, there was a couple players that got together to start a 3-on-3 format, basically. So like all the players didn't have to go overseas because with Brittany Griner, obviously that old situation because she was playing basketball overseas. So they were going to start a 3x3 league in the US as like another league, and the two that started it was actually Brianna Stewart and Afisha Collier, the two that faced off in the finals. So I think that was like some good publicity for that. But there's 30 players in it, 3x3, and like a lot of the stars are actually playing in it. So I think they're trying to do some of that stuff so they don't have to go overseas and play, a bunch too. But so that'll be kind of neat to see how that pans out and how that goes.
Do they just do that for more reps? Like, is that the whole point? Like, so that they're playing, or is it for like money purposes?
Depends on who it is. Some do it for money because I mean their salaries are like 60 to 70K. Like they're not.
I mean, I just know like with the NBA sometimes. I mean, Joel Embiid gets yelled at for playing basketball in the off season, right? So I just don't know. I didn't know. Like, and in their season, sure, they don't play as many games, and so their body doesn't go through as much.
Yeah, it might be the reps too. I mean, they only, like you said, they only play 40. Although I think that's part of the other thing they're doing next year is they expand it to 44 regular season games, and may change it to the WNBA finals. So the finals are going to be now best of 7 starting next year, which I think is neat. So some positive changes for sure.
Yeah, I like that. I like that 3x3 league. That would be cool to check out.
Yeah, no, it'll be fun to see how that goes. But I'll concede on WNBA, and we'll go to a completely opposite sport, and go over to the track and NASCAR. And Chase is going to give us an update on that.
Yeah, last weekend at Homestead, Miami, was an elimination race, and for all intents and purposes, and our guy Christopher Bell didn't really lead any laps, but he held himself in there, got a top 5 finish. I think he finished 4th overall. The really big thing out of this, though, was the last lap. Ryan Blaney was leading and leading the charge. Denny Hamlin was in there. Obviously, he needs a win because he's going to be eliminated. He does not nearly have enough points and have had questionable decisions up until this. So it was him, Blaney, and Tyler Reddick on the last lap. Tyler Reddick must have had a secret nitrous bottle under his tank because he took off that last lap. There was nothing that Ryan Blaney could do. He was coming out with a full head of steam, and that's been Tyler Reddick's MO. He just puts the gas down, and whatever happens, and it got him a win. And he was about to be eliminated too, just because of the points, and obviously locked himself in. So there's only 2 people locked in right now. Only 2 people to get the wins in the playoffs to help secure that, and that was Joey Logano, who's got 2, and Tyler Reddick, and Christopher Bell hanging in at 3rd place. So obviously a win would do a lot of good for him, but obviously just staying in that position has been a good spot for him. He's been running top 2, top 3 all season, so he's been able to carry the momentums into the playoffs, which has been a really good sign. And he's been performing well at tracks that historically didn't do so well at too. So it's good to see that he's been able to get himself in a good position, get himself ready, and just stay in that striking spot. You can definitely win it from the 3rd place. Obviously, it's a little bit easier if you're higher than that, but he's put himself in a really good spot. So I'm interested to see how this goes. Definitely some notable guys on the bubble: Larson, Hamlin, Blaney, and Elliott. All those guys. Probably, I can't remember what the odds were when we started the year, but I have to imagine Kyle Larson was the favorite. Denny Hamlin was in there. So was Ryan Blaney. He's defending champ, and Chase Elliott also has a championship under his belt. Can't really count him out. Hasn't really had that moment. I would say, in these playoffs, where he takes over really all year. He's been okay. He had one win on the year, I think, but other than that, he was just kind of finishing top 10, top 15, not really having his car out front. So we'll see if any of those guys can punch their ticket. Obviously, we're hoping Christopher Bell does, and we'll see. It's a short track this week, Martinsville. Anything can happen at this track.
Oh yeah, just don't get caught up in a wreck.
Yeah, don't get caught up in a wreck, and don't let Denny Hamlin get out in front, because this is his track. Where he's from, it's what he does. And so anytime that Martinsville rolls around, Richmond rolls around, got to imagine Denny Hamlin's an odds-on favorite, just because he seems to turn it on for those tracks, and he needs it right now. I mean, being down 18 points, it could change in the race. The points fluctuate a lot, but that's a tough spot to be in, especially being on the bubble. So we'll see. There's a lot of guys who are going to be gunning for it now because the elimination's coming up, and they need to make some moves. So Tyler Reddick and Logano probably can just manage the field, try to obviously finish ahead of everyone, but there's not so much pressure on them now to get himself. And I will say this is kind of a cool opportunity for Michael Jordan. Came into the sport not really knowing a whole lot. He's just best friends with Denny Hamlin, decided to make a team, and now with Tyler Reddick getting a win, he's on the doorstep of possibly getting a championship in a different sport. So it's kind of neat. I don't hate their team. They're only a 2-car stable, and obviously Denny Hamlin's a car owner, but races for Joe Gibbs Racing. So it's a cool little storyline that's been kind of popping off all year. Tyler Reddick has been dominant at stretches this year. I mean, he found himself in a way win at Talladega, but otherwise he's just been destroying the fields when he's had a good car, and that's been every week. Bubba Wallace, same team, not so much, but Tyler Reddick doesn't make any excuses, goes out there, drives that car until the wheels are going to fall off, and he's in the number one spot in the playoffs right now. So, props to him for doing that, what he does, especially with a small team. It's not as easy. I mean, all these other guys are with powerhouse organizations, Joey Logano, obviously with Penske, and then you got Bell with JGR and William Byron with Hendricks. I mean, those are the 3 teams right there if you're going to beat them. So it's cool that he's above all those things, doing it with obviously less resources and tools than those other 3 teams get. So that's it.
Yeah, that last lap, by the way, I saw that. I didn't see it live. I saw the replay. Ridiculous. I mean, a lot of times, I'm a huge basketball fan, and there are so many average and below average fans that are just, you just have to watch the last 2 minutes of the game to find out who wins, right? NASCAR, I feel like that is not the case at all. And Reddick just said, all bets off. I'm going to make this one lap count. And that was a wild comeback victory for him right there. And I mean, it makes for an exciting playoff race for sure.
Yeah, it does. And I'm glad it didn't go into overtime. I'm glad it got settled on the last lap. There's been far too many overtimes. Does it add to excitement? Yeah, but it's also kind of annoying just to have that consistently, and then people drop out, and it's kind of a mess overall. But I'm glad to see it. I can't believe his car went that fast. It was unbelievable to see him make the moves he did. The momentum didn't make any sense to me because they're all foot to the metal, foot down. But he did it. He got the win, and he's in it now.
Awesome.
I like it. Well, thanks for the update, Chase. I appreciate it as always, because I don't really follow, so hopefully all of our fans do too. And I think we're gonna wrap it up there. This was a good podcast, boys. Kind of getting back into the swing of things, getting to meet, and we haven't done this consistently over the past couple of weeks. So this was a good group of sports, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. The grind doesn't stop. We always have more on the horizon. We always can do more, but we're always going to be here. And we will be on again next Tuesday, barring any unforeseen things. And we'll be excited to see everyone again then. So,
all right. We'll see you guys next time.
And Ryan Chase out. Peace.